The ripoff, you've seen this bar everywhere. The Kunafa Chocolate Bar, also called the Dubai Chocolate Bar, went from a quiet Middle Eastern specialty to a global obsession practically overnight. This bar is actively destroying the entire trend, the ones flooding gas stations, dollar stores, and shady dropshipping sites. These companies don't care about chocolate. They're speed-running the hype before it dies. And I'll be real with you, the first Dubai bar I ever tried was a disappointment. I thought the whole trend was overhyped garbage. Turns out I just hadn't tried the real thing yet. Let's start with the shell. When you bite into one of these bars, you're not eating real chocolate. You're eating what the industry calls compound chocolate. That's a polite way of saying fake. In real chocolate, the fat comes from cocoa butter, straight from the cacao bean. But cocoa butter is expensive, so these factories swap it for cheap vegetable fats like palm oil. Think of compound chocolate like plastic stamped to look like leather. Same appearance. Completely different material. That's why there's no snap. That's why it looks lifeless. And that's why it coats the roof of your mouth with that thick, waxy film that just sits there. Here's how wild this is. A standard Hershey's bar, the most basic chocolate in America, contains around 11% cacao and still uses real cocoa butter. Your average Dubai chocolate bar? Zero cocoa butter. It literally has less real chocolate in it than a Hershey's. Let that sink in. The filling? About 70% sugar and vegetable oil, dyed neon green with artificial pistachio flavoring. They completely skip the tahini, the sesame paste that's supposed to balance the sweetness. Without it, you're eating sugar on sugar on sugar. And here's the part that should actually make you angry. A mass-produced chocolate bar costs roughly 25 cents to manufacture, and that's with real cocoa butter. Swap in palm oil and cheap vegetable fat, and these bars cost even less. You paid $3 to $5. That's a markup of over 1,000% on a bar that isn't even chocolate. Someone's getting rich off that waxy film on the roof of your mouth, and it's not you. No cap. And the crunch? There is none. They use cheap toasted vermicelli instead of real kataifi pastry. Moisture from the filling seeps in over weeks of shipping. The result? A soggy, chewy, sickly sweet disaster that hits different. And not in a good way. Be honest. How many of you bought one of these thinking it was the real thing? Drop a 1 in the comments if you got burned. But this is just a crime of greed. The next one is a crime of physics, and I guarantee you've committed it. The amateur. Now, let's talk about the homemade version that took TikTok by storm. Millions of people saw those viral videos and thought, I can make that. And honestly, this homemade version tastes 100 times better than the ripoff. Real ingredients, actual effort. But it still falls short. Why? Because nobody told you the science, and you probably messed up without even knowing it. Here's your first clue. If your bar melted all over your fingers the second you picked it up, you made the most common mistake in chocolate history. Most home bakers melt standard chocolate chips in the microwave and pour them straight into a silicone mold. When you do that, you destroy the crystal structure of the cocoa butter. When it cools, it becomes what professionals call untempered. Think about it like this. A wrinkled shirt is made of fine fabric, but the structure is completely destroyed. That's untempered chocolate. Same ingredients, wrong structure. It dries matte instead of glossy, bends instead of snapping, and melts the instant your body heat touches it. Low-key, most people think the chocolate itself is the problem. It's not. The real killer? The butter. If you used regular butter, it's about 15 to 18% water. That water gets absorbed by the thin pastry strands. By day 2, your crunchy masterpiece has turned into a soggy, disappointing mess. And the filling? Many of you are using jar pistachio spread from the grocery store. It's delicious, sure, but it's also sweet. Layer that with sweet chocolate, and you've got a bar that's one-dimensional. No contrast, no depth, just sugar hitting your taste buds like a sugar rush far. Here's something wild. A well-made homemade bar still tastes better than 90% of the fancy chocolate bars you've been overpaying for at Whole Foods. You just didn't know your creation was broken. Imagine what happens when you actually fix it. Did you know that tempering chocolate at home takes literally 3 minutes? Most of y'all don't know this, but the entire difference between your amateur attempt and a professional bar comes down to temperature control. So real quick, who made a homemade Dubai bar and it fell apart? Comment sus if that was you, because we're about to fix this. The professional. Now we're getting into the good stuff. This is where actual chefs take the same idea and turn it into something that belongs in a Michelin star restaurant. And the first difference? The chocolate. Nobody is using grocery store chips. They're using couverture chocolate, a high-grade chocolate with over 35% pure cocoa butter. It's the Italian calfskin of the chocolate world. It's the real deal, and everything you make with it behaves differently. But the real magic happens when they temper it. Tempering is a precise, controlled heating and cooling process that forces the cocoa butter molecules into what scientists call Form 5 crystals. Think of it like building blocks. Cocoa butter can stack itself in 6 different ways. 5 of them are unstable, causing your chocolate to melt, bend, and look dull. Form 5 is the one perfect arrangement where every block locks into place. That's what gives you the shine, the snap, and the clean melt that literally makes people go, "Whoa, what is this?" And here's the part nobody tells you. The entire difference between amateur and professional chocolate comes down to 3 temperatures. Melt your couverture to 45 degrees Celsius. Cool it on a marble slab to 27 degrees Celsius. Then bring it back up to 31 degrees Celsius. That's it. 3 temperatures. That's the entire secret to professional chocolate, and you can do this at home with a basic thermometer. Seriously, it's that simple, and it's giving next-level vibes. Now, the filling. Forget sweet spreads. The professional uses 100% pure, unsweetened pistachio paste. The best ones come from a tiny town called Bronte on the slopes of Mount Etna in Sicily. They call them green gold. Bronte pistachios make up just 1% of the world's supply. The trees grow in volcanic soil. They're harvested entirely by hand, and farmers only pick them every other year to let the trees recover. That's how rare this ingredient is. This is the kind of detail that separates people who cook from people who create art. Look at the color. Real pistachio paste isn't neon green. It's earthy, muted, almost brownish green. And if you've ever heard someone say, "The green ones are the best pistachios," that's actually wrong. The best pistachios for chocolate are the ones with the deepest flavor, and those are the dull, brownish green ones from Bronte or Iran. Color means nothing. Every food influencer who told you to look for bright green was selling you aesthetics, not flavor. And that's facts. They blend this with high-grade white chocolate and deeply roasted, savory tahini. The tahini does the heavy lifting. It cuts through the sweetness and adds this nutty, almost umami depth that makes your brain go, "What is that?" It's the ingredient that separates pretty good from "I need to eat this every day." And the crunch? This is the secret nobody talks about. The professional doesn't use butter. They use ghee, clarified butter. When you simmer butter and skim off the water and milk solids, you're left with pure fat. Think of it as waterproofing your pastry from the inside. Fry kataifi in ghee, and it will shatter in your mouth even a month later. Moisture can't touch it. It's still crunchy. It's still perfect. If you've never eaten properly tempered chocolate in your life, hit like right now. Because after this video, you'll never go back to untempered again. And trust me, once you taste the difference, you'll understand why some people spend $20 on a single bar. The luxury. Welcome to the final boss of desserts. At this level, you're not eating a chocolate bar. You're eating a dessert engineered down to the millimeter. It just happens to look like a chocolate bar. Every single bar is hand-painted with colored cocoa butter. The molds are custom-made. Nothing about this is mass-produced. A factory pumps out thousands of rip-off bars a day. The team behind the luxury? 25 bars. By hand. Full day's work. These aren't being made for profit margins. They're being made for perfection. The shell is impossibly thin, yet strong enough to hold a shocking amount of filling without cracking. When you break it, the cream oozes out beautifully. But it's never runny, never messy. It holds its shape until the exact moment it hits your tongue. And then it just dissolves. Not melts, dissolves. Like it was waiting for permission from your taste buds. The cream itself? Proprietary. Nobody knows what's in it. Straight up guarded like a national secret. But what you can taste are layers. The pistachio is restrained, subtle, sophisticated, letting other flavors shine. The tahini is bold, cutting through everything with a savory, almost bitter backbone that makes this bar savory and sweet at the same time. Your brain literally short-circuits on the first bite. It's hitting different in the best way possible. The texture is where things get insane. The kataifi was fried in single-origin ghee. Ghee that was clarified from butter made from grass-fed cows. The pastry shatters with a sound that's almost musical. And that sensation? That's what you're paying for. Not the ingredients, not the labor, the sensation, the experience. The moment where your senses align and you go, "Oh, this is what chocolate is supposed to be." Here's the real question though. Is the luxury actually worth $20? Or is it just luxury packaging and hype designed to make you feel exclusive? I want to see this debate go absolutely crazy in the comments. Tag someone who needs to know the truth about chocolate. And honestly, Once you understand what separates the ripoff from the luxury, you'll never look at dessert the same way again. The real tea is this. You don't need to spend $20 to eat well. You just need to understand what you're actually eating. And now you do.